Hello, my dear students of class 7. Welcome back to another class with me, your tutor, Atsinyo Sekose, and this tutoring is coming from the Directorate of School Education, Nagaland. So today we are going to continue with our previous topic, that is Quality by John Galsworthy. We have learned in our previous lesson that we are talking about a shoemaker, a German shoemaker who made very fine quality of shoes. That's why he's also struggling to keep up with the competition in the market. In fact, in our previous class, we have also discussed a little bit about that, and I'm sure now you are curious about how he is going to go about with his business. We also learned from the narrator or the author that he is very fond of this shoemaker and he often visits him, but it is not always possible. Why? Because the kind of shoes that he made are of very good qualities and it lasted very long. So that's that far we have discussed. Now we are going to talk about the rest of the lesson here, but before we do that, let's take a look at some of the new words that we would be discovering along the way. So the first one we have here is large firm, which means big company or companies for that matter, or big stores. Number 2 here is inferior, which means bad quality or lower quality. Number 3, hardships. I'm sure we all know what this is. In our text, it means struggle or difficulties. Then number 4, ill-omened, which means bad luck. And 5, aged and wan, which means old and weak or pale. And 6, abroad, which means a foreign country. 7, check, a stated sum of money, which is usually written on a piece of paper. All right. Then number 8, flowery. Flowery here in our lesson, it means exaggeration. All right. Then number 9, this is a phrase, he was a character. Here, what does it mean? He was a character here means a unique person. All right. A very different personality. So that's what we mean here. Now we are going to take a look into our next paragraph in continuation. So you may turn to page 74 and look at paragraph 16. So here in the next lesson here, what we learned here is that the narrator or the author at one point of time went back to this shoemaker's shop, and he was wearing a shoe that was bought in an emergency at a big firm, large firm. And when he did that, the shoemaker looked down at his shoe and was surprised, and he said that those are not my shoes, or those are not my boots, which means he was able to recognize what kind of shoes that he made, and this fellow is a daily customer, we can say, or a very good customer to Mr. Gessler. So he was able to recognize that, and the way he said it was not out of anger or out of jealousy of big firms here, but he was looking so sad and disappointed that the author felt very sorry about it. And what did he do next? He bent down and pressed the left foot of the author, and he said, "It hurts you there." So see, just by looking at the shoe, he can tell whether it is good quality or not, and he is able to find out that this kind of large firms, they are producing shoes that are not of good qualities, and it also hurt people here. And he goes on and says that those big firms have no respect. So see, he understood the value of good work, all right? And he pointed out that these big firms, they do not care about the comfort of the customers, but they have no self-respect. And here we also learned that this is the only time that he criticized big firms, or we can say that he was complaining. That's what the author puts it. And then, as if something had given way within him, he spoke long and bitterly. And he goes on talking about these kind of hardships and struggles that artists like him feel or goes through in or struggle in their business. And he goes on and talking about big firms, he said that they get it all. And how do they get it all? By putting up fancy, attractive advertisement, but See, they are not producing good qualities. And they do that. He goes on, Mr. Gessler further said, he goes on and said that it goes to this, presently I have no work. So see, they are trying to, the big firms are taking over, in other words, the smaller shops and business in this way, because they are able to produce new things in very quickly with using machines, all right, unlike Mr. Gessler, who would go tediously, hardworkingly with even a pair of shoes. So that was the trouble that he shared with the author. And at this rate, if it goes on at this rate, it will get very less, he said. We will not be able to get good quality work very soon at this rate that the market is going. So that was what we learned here. And in the next paragraph, we learned that the author also tried to talk about circumstances of those bad luck boots. And in other words, he also tried to talk about the kind of bad luck or how competition is also harming the local artist, we can say. And because he started to feel very sorry, he understood the struggle of such people that in an instant he ordered a number of pairs of boots. And what happened when he did that? These are very fine, good quality. So it lasted for 2 years. So for 2 years, he did not get the opportunity to go and visit the shoemaker. In the following paragraph, we learned that he went back after so many months had passed, and when he went back after 2 years, to be precise, when he went back to the shop, he thought he saw Mr. Gessler, elder brother, handling a piece of leather. But why is that so? We learned that it was not Mr. Gessler, elder brother, but it was he himself. Why? Because he is now growing very old. So that's what we can understand from here. And we learned from Mr. Gessler that, but my elder brother is dead. His elder brother passed away, and that was the sad news that they shared. And Mr. Gessler further said that he was a good shoemaker. And so from these incidents again, he ordered again some pairs of shoes. And here again, he is working in a very hard, he cares a lot about his customers. So Mr. Gessler asked him, when do you want it? And he brought out a beautiful piece of leather, and the author ordered several pairs, and it was very long before they came. Now, why is that so? Because he had lost his brother, the one person who is very skillful and also helps him in his work. But they were better than ever. This time it was better than ever. One simply could not wear them out. It is never getting worn out. And soon after that, I went abroad. And after this incident, he went to a foreign country. And after 1 year, he returned, and he returned to London. Remember, it was in London, and he wanted to visit his old friend. So he went back and check into that shop. And what happened here is that, remember, it was only 1 year since he went abroad. But what happened here is he find Mr. Gessler looking like 75 years old instead of 60. So you see, this kind of struggle and hardships is getting a toll on Mr. Gessler. So that's what we can understand. And when he entered this time, Mr. Gessler was not able to recognize his good customer and asked him, "Do you want any boots? I can make them quickly." So see, he is also losing his eyesight, in other words. And the author replied, please, I want boots all around, of every kind. He wanted good quality boots, but he also wanted to help Mr. Gessler here. So he ordered all kinds of boots that he can make. Now this time around, it came very late, and the author was thinking that maybe these boots are never going to turn up. But it did. One fine day, one by one, I tried them on in shape and fit, in finish and quality of leather. They were the best he had ever made. And this time it was the best, the finest quality. It fits perfectly. And he was so happy with it, he flew downstairs. In other words, he rushed downstairs and wrote a check and posted it at once with my own hand. In other words, he wrote a check to Mr. Gessler, paying him because of his good work. Now what happened in the next paragraph? A week later, Passing the little street, I thought I would go in and tell him how splendidly the new boots fitted. But when I came to where his shop had been, his name was gone. Now what happened here? He wanted to go personally and thank him about and praise him about his work, but now in place of that Gessler's brothers, the name was gone. I went in very much disturbed, confused. In the shop, there was a young man with an English face. Now, instead of that old Mr. Gessler, the way he tip-tap on the stairs and come down and greet his customers, it was an English face that met him. And this person told him that Mr. Gessler had passed away. So that was the sad news that we learned. But I only received these boots from him last Wednesday week. So he was also not able to understand. Just last Wednesday, I have ordered these boots and it has arrived. And so this shopkeeper or this Englishman had told him or reported him more about what happened to Mr. Gessler. And from him, we learned that poor old man starved himself, slow starvation. So he was working endlessly without food. The doctor called it. The doctor said that it was starvation, that he had died. You see, he went to work in such a way, would keep the shop on, wouldn't have a soul touch his boots except himself. So he was working on it so dedicatedly, so passionately, that he would go on without food. And probably that is also the case because he does not have enough money to get food for himself. And there he'd sit, going on and on. I will say that for him, not a man in London made a better boot. So even this person knows that Mr. Gessler made the best kind of boots. And in London, he's the best. But look at the competition. Now, what was the problem here? Even this fellow pointed out that the competition here is referring to the business or market, all right? He never advertised. In other words, he never tried to put up an advertisement. Would have the best leather too. The kind of leather that he used for making shoes are the best quality, but he never advertised it in that way. And do it all himself. What does he do? He work on it painstakingly. He would work on it all by himself, using his own skills and hard work, unlike big firms who goes and use machines to make this kind of stuff. What could you expect with his ideas? If this is the case here, obviously artists like him would suffer. And in the previous class, I have also given you a task to do, that is discuss about competition or artists, local artists who might be struggling in the market. And maybe you have also come up with this local artists such as people who weave basket weavers, all right, in competition with the plastic baskets that we get. So see what would happen. They do not go and advertise, but eventually with those kind of artists we are also losing. So that is the kind of same problem that Mr. Gessler had faced. But starvation, so even the author was not able to fully understand how much he had struggled. That may be a bit flowery. So the shopkeeper here replied that it is a little bit of an exaggeration, but that was the extent that Mr. Gessler had suffered. But I know myself, he was sitting over his boots day and night to the very last you see. I used to watch him, never gave himself time to eat, never had a penny in the house. So see, that was the situation here. You might want to underline those things. He never have enough time to eat, or for that matter, he never have enough money in the house to carry out his work or to run his business here. All went in, then where does the money go? All went in rent and leather. So see, he is an honest person. Remember in our previous class, we also learned that he would pay back his customers if they find any kind of defect with his work. So the money that he gets from the little orders that he get, he would use it up for paying his rent and buying leather And see, he used the finest leather. He's always proud to show off to his customer, look at this beautiful piece, you know. He does not go with bad quality leather. So the kind of shoes that he made, that is why it is always of finest quality. How he lived so long, I don't know. So even this person was surprised. How did he manage all this time? I'm not sure. So that's what he pointed out. See, he is not working in order to make a lot of money or become rich, or he is not making those shoes to make profit. You might want to write this word down. He does not work in that way, unlike other big firms, but he worked it with passion, with such care for his customers that it would fit perfectly, it will not create any discomfort, and he would use the finest leather. And he is also the most skillful person when it comes to shoemaking. Even this shopkeeper had commented on that. And that's why, because even if it is of very good quality, and that's why even when people do not frequent or visit his shop that much, he tried to manage in that way. You see, if it is a big firm and if you want to make a lot of profit, it may be a bad quality, bad leather, and you can sell it off very easily. And then again, the shoes will get spoiled. People will come into the shop again to get new ones. So see, that was the kind of competition that he was facing with big firms. But even though he knew that, he did not went and do the same thing here. He would always choose the best, finest quality of leather in order to give the best kind of shoes or make the best kind of shoes. So that's why we find that this is the kind of dignity of labor that he has, the kind of honesty and integrity that he has, he put it into his art or his trade. Remember, we are also talking about a shoemaker and understanding it according in the line of an artist. So he was a true artist in that sense. So that's what we can infer here. And this fellow further pointed out that he regularly let his fire go out. Now, what could be the reason for that? He's working endlessly, but he would also go without his own fire. And maybe this is the poor condition. This is why we can say that it is partly true and it is not flowery or exaggeration at all that he starved to death. And yet, remember, he delivered all those several boots that the author had ordered. You know, he delivered it and it was the best. So he gave his best to that last order as well. He was a character. In other words, he was a very unique, different person. So even here we can tell that this shopkeeper, this Englishman, also admired him. But he made good boots. He was such a unique character and he made very good boots. Yes, I said, he made good boots. I here is referring to, remember, it is our narrator or the author. So that's what we find here in this lesson. And this lesson helps us to understand that artist faces a lot of struggles and hardships, and to make it into the market we also need to be very creative, all right? But what is more important here, the integrity of a person, the hard work of a person is far more important. And I'm sure you would like to carry out another conversation with your family members, how these kind of problems, this kind of local artists can also be saved, this kind of entrepreneurs can be saved, in other words. Now let's take a look at our questions and answers. Question number 4 on page 78. What was Mr. Gessler's complaint against big firms? We learned that the complaint that Mr. Gessler has or had against big firms is that they have no respect for their customers and they put up advertisement, and that's how they attracted a lot of customers. But their work was not of honest work. Question number 5, why did the author order so many pairs of boots? Now, why do you think he did that? Because he felt sorry for Mr. Gessler and he felt sorry for his business. So that's why he ordered several boots. Did he really need them? Do you think he really needed them? Last time he ordered, we remember, it lasted for 2 years. So see, or it lasted for very terribly long, he said. So he did not really need that many pairs of boots, but he did that in order to help Mr. Gessler. So that's what we can find here, and that's what you may write down in your answers. So with that, we have come to the end of this lesson. I would suggest that you read your lesson very thoroughly and then try to attempt the questions and answers. The answers, some of the points that I've given out may not necessarily be according to your understanding, but you know, if you can support your answers according to your own understanding and try to write it on your own, that would be very good, and that will really help you. And do not forget to carry another conversation with your families about artists who struggles and how one can help encourage or build, sustain their business. On that note, we would be winding up today's class. Thank you all very much for joining me.